Hello. We all know that Ireland has great opportunities to attract financial services firms from abroad post-Brexit. What's much more difficult for us to say is how the offering from Ireland can be fine-tuned to attract even more companies here. There's plenty of competition at the moment from Paris, Amsterdam, Luxembourg, Frankfurt, and that competition is only going to intensify. I want to talk about one particular angle which I think could make a big difference. And I'm going to start by giving an example from a completely different sector. In 2015, New Zealand became one of the great regulators in the world for drone technology. That was because the people who worked in the aviation regulatory body in New Zealand, the Civil Aviation Authority, were very experienced pilots, people who'd lived and worked in the aviation industry, and they could just see the enormous potential for drones in drone delivery, in all sorts of other sectors of the world's economy in this new technology. So they rapidly introduced the regulation there. So what's crucial here is that you have both the traditional regulatory expertise, the heavy-duty supervision, and you also have a very lively understanding of commercial reality and particularly how technology is changing that. But one disadvantage that Ireland has at the moment is that it's 1,000 people who work in its regulatory teams are based within the Bank of Ireland. Great body that it is, the central bank, the Irish Central Bank, it is of necessity a rather academic environment, and it's home to economists in particular for very obvious reasons. But that's not really the kind of environment where you find this commercial understanding of life on the street, how financial products are developed, how to recruit the right people. All of these issues are too much a part of ordinary business life for people who are really much more of an academic bent to understand easily. So how do you create this more lively environment? There was a very interesting example of how this actually happened in 2016 in the UK, and the UK set up something called the Regulatory Sandbox, and that was to help small digital firms, maybe with even 2 or 3 people, to find out about regulation and to see how they could regulate themselves, become regulated, and they entered into dialogues with the regulators about how this could be done. And the great spin-off of this, or a great side effect of this, was that the Financial Conduct Authority, the British regulator, had realised that it had to become far more user-friendly. It had to roll its sleeves up and talk to people, talk to these potential regulatees in ways that they could understand, because you didn't have a team of hundreds of people as you would in a bank working on compliance. What you had was possibly the entrepreneur himself or herself and 2 other people. So the regulators had to become much more approachable, and the regulators started taking on a bit of a role of coach, not just the severe aloof regulator, but they were actually helping these small firms become regulated without in any way compromising their more remote supervisory role. Ireland has also set up a sandbox. It did that in 2018, and that's great as far as it goes. But really, to become more accessible as a regulator, more needs to be done. One way to do this would be to set the regulator up, or some of the regulatory team, in a separate body. Germany has done this, the United Kingdom has done this, and many other locations. But that's of course expensive, and maybe one day Ireland will do that, but it's probably not going to be a priority just now, coming out of coronavirus. But at the very least, a greater awareness of the need for transparency and to help entrepreneurs would go a long way. If you look at the information for entrepreneurs or for new businesses on the Bank of Ireland website, it's not particularly easy to read. It's not particularly transparent. I'll just give you one more example of how very quick regulation that understands business needs can change the world. We all know that this example. This is what came out. This is the regulation of the COVID vaccine, and the British regulator worked out a way of examining the new products as they were being developed. And the early acceptance of the COVID vaccines by the UK regulators changed the atmosphere in the United Kingdom, and it probably also had an effect in extending Boris Johnson's lifetime as Premier. He was in deep hot water, but before the COVID vaccine was approved and then rolled out. So you might say to yourself, well, yes, but financial services isn't really a matter of life and death like the COVID vaccine. And you're right. But actually, financial services is vastly important. Financial services and financial services regulation is about poverty in one level. It approves mortgage products. It plays a role in the housing market, in making housing more widely available, and in regulating mortgage lenders. Ireland has a shortage of housing. Ireland has a shortage of mortgage lenders. So changing the kind of regulator we have to an organisation which is much more aware of the practicalities of life is something that could have a profound effect. That's all. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.